Quantumania required over 1,000 VFX artists working on over 800 shots to build an entirely subatomic world in the quantum realm. But Marvel's decision to put more money behind Black Panther: Wakanda Forever may just have cost them in the long run. This is what Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania looks like without VFX. Corey Stoll is back, and this time he has an entirely new look.
I am the ultimate weapon!
Corey admitted that filming for MODOK could sometimes be a pain.
Dots on your face, and you have his camera, and you don't really know what you're gonna look like.
But at the same time,
in some ways, the ideal way to act.
Corey didn't have to wait around for lights, camera, or even hair and makeup. He just had to strap on the head-mounted camera and was ready.
There is only...
The VFX artists who worked on MODOK weren't quite as carefree though. They had to deal with some pretty long working hours and the studio taking a number of shortcuts. And on top of that, they struggled to nail MODOK's design. They wanted to make sure that you could still tell it was Corey's face, and so they had to be careful with how much they stretched his features because you can lose Corey really quickly. Let's dive a little deeper into the issues the VFX team faced, shall we? One VFX artist, who preferred to remain anonymous, said that it was impossible for them to carry Ant-Man all the way through, because all the money and all the best resources had been given to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which Marvel had apparently considered to be top priority. Now, the team on Quantumania was left scrambling to make a bunch of last-minute changes that caused tension, turmoil, and wait on set, and artists would sometimes have to work 80 hours per week for months in order to meet deadlines. It's clear that plenty of shortcuts were being taken too. It wasn't uncommon for the VFX artists to have to digitally recreate an entire actor in a shot, which often left the artists wondering why didn't they film it the right way or how they wanted it in the first place. All in all, there's definitely a reason why the special effects have been getting the sort of reviews they have, even though they created an entire subatomic world. The quantum realm really is a world unto itself. Sorta like our channel is, so why don't you take a second now to just hit that subscribe button. Anyway, back to the quantum realm. Director Peyton Reed said that we didn't want it to be too CG heavy, but we aren't entirely sure it worked out that way, considering the entire world is basically CGI. 4 MPC teams were needed to put together the quantum realm, which turned out to be an entire microverse spanning 40 kilometers in diameter, and including 20 kilometers of quantum skies. That's a pretty big microverse, and if you look up at the skies, you'll be able to find a number of special effects such as slow-moving portals, noise waves, stars, and clouds.
I want it to be as big and as visceral and consuming as possible.
Our actors would usually be placed in front of a blue screen so that the quantum realm could be added in around them afterwards, although there were times in filming that the cast actually was submerged within the world. Peyton Reed became familiar with volume technology while working on The Mandalorian.
All of this is just LED screen, displaying backgrounds pre-made in a video game engine.
This technology allows the actor to better imagine that they're actually in the scene, easier than if they were acting in front of a green screen.
Imagining how VFX artists would make this planet look once filming had ended.
For Quantumania, Peyton knew it would be important to render the quantum realm vividly, and yet he wasn't sure that the volume technology was ready for it, especially because he wanted a lot of movement within those screens. In the end, they ended up using the volume technology, and although Peyton admitted that it was great for certain environments, he said that it was not necessarily right for other ones. Sometimes the sets were far too big for the volume, and so they had to use partial sets.
I didn't know you could do that.
Still, the actors loved the volume because they got to get a bit of an idea as to how these environments would look in the movie. Let's take a closer look at everything that our MPC teams had to build. The artists of MPC Montreal were responsible for not only one, but 2 large-scale CG environments, the Gorilla Village and Chronopolis, both of which required them to put together full-scale battle sequences, along with CG crowds, an army of battle ants, and hundreds of VFX elements to be added to the plate. MPC Adelaide put together Janet's homestead by filling a library with plenty of highly detailed CG foliage to help add a sense of depth and layers to the environment. The creatures in the film also come courtesy of our MPC teams, everything from the hundreds of battle ants to the snail-like horses known as Snorses. You can clearly see that our VFX teams had a lot to handle. And yet, the most challenging part of the whole thing was putting together the Blight, which had to be the cause of some pretty large-scale destruction. But even something as seemingly straightforward as a prison break can have its problems in a movie like this. Have you heard about the Monsters, Aliens, Robots, Zombies? They're a Canadian VFX team, better known by the acronym Mars, who actually had the privilege of working on a few scenes for Quantumania. They offered their use of Vanity AI on a few scenes, but their biggest and probably most flashy scene was when Cassie broke Jentorra out of prison. A moment that required quite a bit of changes to get it right. Even before VFX supervisor of Mars said that he had jumped on the show. Marvel had already sent over the plates and told him, here's what we want for each shot. Christian was left thinking, how are we gonna pull this off? Some of their requests had been things like, hey, rework this camera move, do this, do that. And if it turned out that the plates didn't work, then Mars would have to recreate the whole scene, actor and all, from CG. Now it's clear to see that they had their work cut out for them, and that was just the start. Have you heard of Vanity AI? It's pretty up-and-coming AI software designed to do cosmetic fixes on an actor quicker than ever before. In the past, a visual effects supervisor might have to wait for up to 1 week for just a single scene to come back to them. But using Vanity AI allows you to complete cosmetic fixes on up to 5 shots a day, depending on the length of the shot and how many frames is in it. Mars developed this technology while they were working on the special effects for WandaVision, where it was taking too long for artists to paint over the tracking markers on Paul Bettany's face. For Quantumania, Vanity AI was mostly used on our teenaged character, Cassie Lang, just to freshen her up and give her a more relatable, youthful look. This saved our VFX artists hours worth of time, which they definitely needed considering how much work went into building Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror needed to be a real threat. He needed to feel tactile, like something the audience could hold on to. And so they had Jonathan Majors step in to play the physical man, all while his suit and powers were mostly added in CGI. Kang's force fields and laser beams needed to be added in after the fact, as well as his distinctive blue helmet. Behind-the-scenes photos of Jonathan on set show that he didn't do a whole lot of flying after all, instead posing on top of a big blue box. The VFX team would later integrate this plate-based photography with CGI to give us the scene we recognize from the movie. Our artists struggled to get the design of Kang's suit just right. Not as much as they struggled with Veb, maybe, but even from initial trailers to the final movie, you can see that Kang's suit has been filled in with more details, and that his helmet's been given a sleeker, more comic-accurate look. How could you not love Veb?
Hello.
Oh.
Hi.
He was the surprise breakout star of Quantumania, featuring the voice of David Dismalchin, who's been with the Ant-Man series from the very beginning.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
But did you know that David was
Veb.
still right there on the set the entire time? These hilarious behind-the-scenes photos from the set show David dressed in a gray suit as a stand-in for Veb, and we suppose it's nice to know that our actors actually had something to work against. MPC's modeling and texture artists studied animals such as jellyfish in order to get Veb's translucent pink skin right, but surprisingly, that wasn't the part that they struggled with the most. That distinction would have to go to Veb's expressions, seeing as our artists were having a hard time getting Veb to express his emotions without any holes. We imagine they must have been as glad to have that change as Veb was.
I have holes.
Marvel may have used some pretty state-of-the-art technology in the creation of Quantumania, but we have to admit, we're disappointed to hear that their VFX team wasn't happy with their working conditions. What did you think about the special effects in the movie, even knowing that their team was working way overtime? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to let us know down in the comment section.